Welcome back, everybody, to the Random PM podcast. I know what everyone listening is probably thinking. Did this guy die? Well, no, I did not. However, I did do something I never thought I would do. I deleted my 10,000 listeners show. Now, why would I do something like that? Well, I'm going to tell you. It's because I felt I was at the end of an era. When I first started the show, I was in high school. My sense of humor was questionable, and I didn't care what anyone had to say. As time went on, we grew, and I met many cool people and even came out with merch. But then I graduated high school, and a lot of stuff came at me at once. So slowly, I started making fewer episodes that were dropping in quality. And then I stopped uploading completely. This was the point when I decided that, well, the show did what it was meant to, and it was time to get rid of it. So I deleted it. But then after I deleted it, I got some backlash. I mean, the show had 100 plus episodes with some pretty well-known people. Stories were told that were deep and emotional, and I was even told that they felt like they had a voice for once when coming on the show. Which brings me to today. After talking to many people and getting things reorganized with a lot of planning, I'm deciding to launch the show again. It's going to take time to gain back all that I've lost, but we are going to get there. And I'm more than excited that you guys can see the show become what it once was. With all that being said, let's get into today's episode. I'm sure we have all noticed that there has been a crazy amount of inflation going on, and with that comes an increase in food prices. Everyone who knows me knows that I am a big bag, and if there was an unlimited card for DoorDash, I'd be the first one on the waiting list. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But lately, it's been getting rough out here, and I don't have a car just yet. So if I'm hungry, but I don't want to cook, which I can't cook, so I have to order off of DoorDash. Now, before I get any comments saying, am I really going to complain over somebody going out in the rain, the cold, the sun, whatever, to get my food to me? Yeah, I'm going to complain. Because even when I get a normal amount of food for just me, I'm still spending way too much money to get it to me. And DoorDash has this weird feature that I really don't like, and the fact that the Dashers can take multiple orders. Now, it's fine if the other order is near me, I'm not going to tell someone they can't get their food. But 9 times out of 10, it isn't. If I place my order, say in Cyprus, they're going to accept an order in San Antonio and go all the way there first before they get their food to me. They end up going the complete opposite way, and then my food ended up being real cold. And I want to point this out, I'm going to have to point this out a lot during this show. And I don't want to sound like a racist, but I wish there was a way to get only English-speaking Dashers. Usually, when I order, I get a Dasher that only speaks Spanish, and it can be difficult getting the food to me when I'm at work. And for some reason, they expect me to know, that I was born in Mexico or where a lot of places where they speak Spanish. I just know it. I know the breakdown of the language. I know the ASL of the language. But my main complaint would be the insane markups that they have. For example, the McDonald's near my house charges 75 cents for an extra sauce. I don't mind paying, but every time I get them, they forget not only the sauce, but the straws too. And another example would have to be Cane's. They have a $5 fee just to get it to your boy. That is ridiculous. Now, one of y'all are probably thinking, can't you just cook and eat at your house? Well, one, I've already told you I can't cook. But two, what is the point of cooking when I could give DoorDash my car payment money when I get one? And so, what could I do to solve my problems? Well, I could go to these individual places themselves, but if you haven't noticed, they are really trying to scam us out here. What used to be a $10 run to McDonald's is now $20. I'm not saying that they are the only ones doing this, but that's just a place I go to often. I've even seen some stuff where people are saying that fast food is a luxury they can no longer afford. And I don't think this is something that will change until there is a change in the White House. But isn't there something these companies can do? Well, I know they aren't going to lower their prices. So the next idea they came up with is giving us value meals that aren't value. If you live under a rock or just aren't fat enough to care, many fast food places are coming out with quote unquote value meals to try to lure customers back in. Now for some, they might think this is good news, But once you take a closer look, you realize that they are still scamming the hell out of us. Before I go in and like completely tear down all these other places, there is one place doing it right, and that is Taco Bell. If you didn't know, they recently came out with a $7 box that comes with a lot of things I don't know the name of. And if you total up all the items you get in that box, you are getting $15 worth of food. Now that to me seems like actual value, and so far is the only place where I will put my name on them. I could put some respect on their name. But the same can't be said for all these other fast food places. However, like, here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. I don't know who is getting full off of a small burger, 2 fries, and maybe a third of a gulp of a drink, but it isn't me. Let me tell you something. Just because you make a meal $5 doesn't mean anything if what you are getting doesn't match that. One thing I will give these places though is I feel like the quality is getting better, at least from what I've seen. The only place that has been slacking is Chick-fil-A. I don't know if they aren't as happy anymore or if that's not their thing, but they don't say my pleasure like they used to. Which actually reminds me of the time I worked at Chick-fil-A for like I think a day or two. I'm not going to say they were bad to work for, but it was definitely interesting. For starters, the orientation was kind of boring. It was going over the basics, giving me a belt, stuff like that. We learned the number one rule was to smile, be nice, all that crud. But now that I don't work there, I can say the girl who did our orientation, well, let's just say she had a nice face. I got through that, and then it was time for my first shift. Basically, I learned pretty quickly that the drive-thru was going to be the only place I knew. They went more in depth about the drive-thru than the history of the company. I didn't need to know how to make drinks or coffee, food, how to take orders inside, how to clean, how to do anything. I just needed to know what type of car was approaching in the drive-thru. The dude training me was cool, but he kept saying all good over and over. I would say, is that right? All good. Can I go home? All good. Can I go to the bathroom? All good. Can I go by myself? All good. Like that is all he would say over and over. Like that was his entire vocabulary. And I think the reason me and Chick-fil-A split was because I can't spell. A lot of the customers were getting angry because I didn't know how to spell their names. In fact, the guy training me said I had the spelling level of a preschooler, which is alright, I guess, because who really needs to know how to spell? I'm grateful for what happened though, because it led me to my current job, which was my first ever office job. However, back in this episode, you remember how I said that I don't want you guys to think I'm racist? Well, one of my last summer jobs was the definition of racism. I worked at Luby's for, ironically, 2 days, and I wouldn't put that on my worst enemy. I should have known when they hired me so fast that something was wrong. On my first day, there was no training. I get it, it isn't that hard to put food on a plate, but I wasn't even shown how to do that. They basically told me to stand somewhere and smile. If you ever eaten at Luby's, you know that their main consumer base is old people. I'm not even joking, they had people waiting out the door 15 minutes before opening. You would think that working at a food-based establishment, you would also need to know the menu, but not at Luby's though. I was expected to know all the combos, all the sizes, the vegetarian, unvegetarian plate. And then again, I can't reiterate this enough. It is kind of a skill issue, but I don't speak Spanish. But Luby's was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and give you a trainer that only speaks Spanish. So the whole time I'm standing there and I look stupid and that I don't know what I'm doing, which to be fair for them, I didn't. Break time wasn't any better as I had to pay all my life saving for some cafeteria food. My homie Water Rock, y'all know him, he's actually on the up on YouTube, wasn't any better when he worked at Sonic. That job sucked too, but the key difference between Sonic and Luby's is he at least had coworkers that liked him. At Luby's, the people working there acted like I was some form of disease that they couldn't catch, and if they did, they would die. Whenever I would go talk to them, they would look at me and then walk away. They would also get on to me about things I possibly couldn't know about. Safe to say, I didn't last long, because I don't mind putting up with older customers, but if the environment is bad, there was no use in sticking around. Now, back to office jobs. I think I'll make an entirely different episode about office jobs, because I'll need to find a way to put a unique spin on it, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to wrap up this rant that nobody asked for because I want to talk about kind of what I want this show to become and what plans I have. One of the big things that I still get asked about this day is the rejection episode, where I have a bunch of people talk about their biggest rejection, their biggest heartbreak, what kind of happened, stuff like that. And I haven't forgotten about it. I'm just like trying to work on the details of making that happen. Another thing you probably noticed is the cover art. If you listened to my last show, then you know I would talk about whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. There was no theme or anything close to anything related to organization. But I've grown since then, and this time around we are going to switch it up. There will be 3 mini-series going on within the show that you will be able to differentiate by looking at the cover art. The first will be episodes like this, where we talk about all things food. One episode could be about a DoorDash order gone wrong, and another could be a restaurant review. So just know, when you see this cover art, your boy is about to be talking about food. The next mini-series will be all personal stories about my life that nobody really cares about. But I think the mini-series I'm most excited for is Been Through It. Unfortunately, with the old show, I was only able to get out like 2 to 3 episodes of that, but the response was clear. I got many messages talking about how people could relate to what the guests had to say, and how even they had a story they wanted to tell and get their voices heard. This time around, I will have a stricter screening for guests, but if you are interested in coming on the show, feel free to shoot me a message so we can make it happen. I think kind of a mini goal, sub goal for the show is to get our first ever sponsor. Even with 10,000 listeners, there weren't any brands reaching out that would fit what I was doing. Hopefully, we can change that. And for all those who missed out on my merch, don't worry, because sooner or later I will be bringing it back with an even better design. But that's all that I really have for you guys today. I know this episode is short, but don't worry, because in the future you can expect episodes to be about 20-30 minutes. The goal is 1 episode a week, but if that were to change, I'll give you an update on my Instagram, which you can follow with the link below. Well, that's it for now. You know the drill. Get with the program and stay random. Thank you so much for listening.